What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso. The season, or the Jets season, is over. So now we go from the 12 pack to Sunday and or Monday AM coffee, which is our off-season version of it. There will be some picks mixed in here. I'm going to give my picks for Wild Card Weekend. I am recording this before Saturday's games kick off, so this is going to run Sunday. If I'm wrong on my Saturday picks, you can laugh about them now. And hopefully I'm right on my Sunday picks. This will drop before the game starts. I will hit a range of topics on these episodes every Sunday, depending on what is going on. But the sort of broader backdrop is I'm going to work through different parts of the Jets roster and talking about my POV on them and what I think the overall future is. Going to use today to focus on the Jets' lead receiver, Garrett Wilson, or partial lead receiver, depending on how everything happens next year. Before I get into it, want to remind everyone that we still have for you 20% off for a one-time purchase of Magic Mind if you use the link we put in the bio. I've been using Magic Mind literally since before Jets 49ers, been using it all season for, whatever it's been, 5-6 months now. Take it in the morning with my coffee, usually before my coffee. Tastes good. It's a nice little quick shot you throw right down. All natural ingredients, a little lion's mane in there, some turmeric. It's good, and it helps. It helps my focus. It helps my energy throughout the day. And we've been working with them for a while, and want to keep this offer rolling throughout the off season for our fans. So click the link in the bio. Use promo code JETS20 for 20% off a one-time purchase and up to 48% off for the description. With that code, JETS20, and give it a shot. I promise you won't regret it. It's been a real positive to my overall routine. So, Garrett Wilson, if you listen to Badlands, you know that we're big fans of Garrett Wilson. We were fans of Garrett Wilson before he was drafted by the team. We were calling for the Jets to draft him instead of at the time trying to trade for Calvin Ridley, I think it was, and we're a little pessimistic. They were even going to have the chance to get him at 10. We're thrilled when they got him at 10. And, Wilson's been unique in Jets history to start your Jets career, especially in the modern era with 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons with how offense and how quarterback play has been here is hard to do. And, there are very high expectations for him coming into this year with Aaron Rodgers finally having a competent, capable quarterback. Unfortunately for Wilson, I think the back half of the year was marred by discourse around him potentially wanting a trade. How much of that is real and just general speculation and there's nothing else to talk about? I think it's hard to say. I think the story's been bluntly overblown and the Jets have him under contract for the foreseeable future. I fully expect Garrett Wilson to be on the Jets next year, and that's not just saying that from a fan perspective. We'll wrap the pot a little bit talking more about that situation. I think if you look at it from a pure production top-line POV, Wilson has played in 17 games, all 3 of his seasons for the Jets. Not something to skip over. First year, 147 targets, 83 receptions, 1,103 yards, 4 touchdowns, 13.3 yards per catch. 2023, 95 receptions on 168 targets, 1,042 yards, 11 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. So, more targets, more receptions, but a minor step back on yards per catch, and touchdowns. This year, 17 games again, 101 catches, the most he's ever had in a season, on 154 targets, which is 14 less targets than he had last year. Not something I know if anyone would have banked on. And 1,104 yards. So narrowly by 1 yard, the most yards he's ever had in a season. Yards per catch was basically flat at 10.9 from the 11.0 the year before, and had a career high in single season touchdowns with 7. Did lose 2 fumbles, which is worth calling out. Not someone who's been really involved in the running game. Had 4 carries as a rookie, had 4 carries his second year, had 2 carries this year. With Wilson, the reality of what happened is he had a stretch in the middle of the year where he was producing like the guy I think all of us thought that he would this year and that we thought he could be. And when the stretch I'm talking about starts basically right around the first Buffalo game on Monday Night Football, where he has Actually, that's not fair. It starts the week before in the Minnesota game where he had the insane amount of targets. He had 23 targets in that game, which is kind of outrageous. It's not kind of outrageous. It is outrageous. 23 targets, 13 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Following week against Buffalo, 10 targets, 8 catches, 107 yards, and a touchdown. 5 for 61 against Pittsburgh. That had the ugly drop. We'll try to gloss over that one. 5 for 113 against New England. 9 for 90 with 2 touchdowns against Houston, including the Jets' probable play of the year. That stretch was like, okay, this is roughly the guy that we expected. And he wasn't like he was bad down the stretch. He put up a 7 for 114 against Miami. He had a touchdown against Jacksonville. He had a touchdown in garbage time against Buffalo. Had a couple big plays here or there, but Davante Adams became the focal point for Aaron Rodgers to almost a point of parity down the stretch. Now, people will point to Wilson's pure target total and say there's nothing to complain about. The guy got, what did we say, 154 targets. Again, keep in mind from Wilson's POV, that's 14 less targets than he got last year. And he got plenty of opportunities. But it's not about, we've said this before, it's not about the quantity of targets. It's about the quality of targets and the routes he was being asked to run in this offense. And you could see it in his yards per catch. The Jets did not use him down the field, right? The Jets used him as swing routes, smoke screens, quick hitches, a lot of peppering of targets in garbage time in certain games that inflated this target total a little bit. Long stretches where he wasn't involved, was not regularly involved in the red zone to the extent that he should have been. You look at the 7 touchdowns and, you had the garbage time one against Buffalo that we're going to write off. You had the 2 outrageous catches against Houston. Okay, those were things he should have been allowed to do more of, where you throw down the field to him and you see what happens. And then 2 really short 1-yard ones against Minnesota and New England early in the season. They just don't use him the right way. He's not using the slot enough. He's not used down the field enough. He does not get enough vertical opportunities. And Garrett's not perfect, right? He lost 2 fumbles. He had some drops this year. I don't think if I was just grading him in an independent vacuum of everything around him, I think it was like a B or a B plus season. But I don't think the Jets did him any favors with how they used him. And by the end, I fully get the guy's frustration. You're out there and the way things are just being choreographed at the line just to get Davante Adams touchdowns and get him Aaron Rodgers' 500th touchdown. It got a little ridiculous. And that's frustrating as a receiver who's really entering his prime. And Davante is good, really good. I don't think anybody, doubts that, but the situation got weird. You could feel some of the friction out there between him and Rodgers. I think that was a consistent thing with a couple other players on the team. Maybe not. I'm not in the locker room. I still think that Wilson is a guy that has the ability to be a 1,400 yard receiver, have 10, 11 touchdowns in a season. I'm glad he took a step forward touchdown-wise this year and had as many touchdowns this year as he did the 2 years prior. I just want to see his route tree expanded. I want to see him running post routes and getting targets. I want to see him running more 9 routes and getting targets. I want to see more post corners and getting targets. I want to see more deep crossers and trying to free him up, and less of the stuff that throws it to him a yard in front of the line of scrimmage and asks him to Gumby and dance around before he gets leveled by a linebacker and, occasionally fumbles the football. That's not the best use of his game. He should be used more in the intermediate to deep passing game, not predominantly in the short passing game. So in terms of his future, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I expect, as of the recording of this podcast, that Rodgers and Adams won't be on the team next year, which leaves Wilson as the clear number 1. The Jets are not going to trade Garrett Wilson unless things get extremely toxic, which I truly don't believe they will, especially if Rodgers and Adams aren't here. And I think it's a huge priority for the new general manager and the new head coach to sit down, proactively knock out an extension, make sure they know, and he knows, that he is a cornerstone to build around going forward. I think from an offensive perspective, you want to find ways to use him, like Dallas uses CeeDee Lamb, like the Vikings use Justin Jefferson. You want to move him around the formation. You want to move him to getting more targets down the field. You want to put a competent veteran opposite him who could handle a starting role. That's probably going to have to come in the veteran trade market. There's not a ton in free agency. Maybe it comes with that first round pick at number 7. A little McMillan, maybe. Maybe you just go sign a guy like Darius Slayton and you trade for I don't know. It's the veteran trade market. I don't want to throw random names out and speculate at this point, but someone will become available. They always do. Because beyond that, the receiver room's barren. Lazard will be gone. I don't know if or what Corley is anything. Gibson's not an NFL receiver. So the Jets are going to need a couple additions, really. And they'll probably throw some darts in the draft and they'll throw some darts in free agency. But Wilson, should be a constant and should be a focal point of the offense. And he's shown he's quarterback proof. He's done this with Zach Wilson, Mike White, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, Aaron Rodgers, and even a little bit of Tyrod mixed in. Like he's a floor 1,000-yard receiver now, and he's going to play every week. And the talent is there. So it's the kind of guy you want to build around, the kind of guy who clearly is taking the losing hard. I think a guy who plays his ass off in spite of everything going on around him and people speculating about his unhappiness or not. And, to have a homegrown receiver who is that good and that productive, I hope the Jets do the right thing and don't let this thing fall apart when it doesn't need to. So, rooting for Garrett Wilson to be here. Next week, I'll probably do a similar conversation about a guy like Breece Hall, where we talk more about the Jets' cornerstones to start. And I do really believe Wilson is that. Thank you, everyone, for listening. First, before I wrap, actually, I got to give my picks. So I'm going to bring it up here. Now, the underdog picks have been published already. You should see them by now on the Discord and the Discord, Instagram, and Twitter. But my picks, a lot of these are going to be chalk, and I apologize for that, but I'm taking the Chargers. I think they will win. I think they will cover the 3. I'm also taking the under in that game. Bluntly, I'll probably go Chargers money line with the under by the time I'm recording this again. Hopefully that doesn't look stupid. Steelers, Ravens. I am not going anywhere near the Steelers after how pathetic that Arthur Smith offense is. Look, I'm taking the Ravens. I think the Ravens will be able to cover the 9.5. I don't want to touch the over-under. These games could get funky and maybe Lamar goes off, but that feels like a 27-7 game, 27-13. Like I'd be surprised if the Steelers win that one or even cover the spread. Denver, Buffalo. I think back to the Skylar Thompson game in Buffalo, and I do wonder if their foot's off the gas a little bit. And Peyton, for as annoying as he can be, he's a good coach. They'll be ready to play, and they have a good defense. This is another one I really like the under in, especially with the likely conditions. I think Buffalo will win. It's not one Buffalo's going to win. I think Buffalo will cover. But this is probably one I could see myself saying maybe Denver plus 8.5 and the under, but I won't touch that part of it. I'll just touch the under. Philly, Green Bay, rematch of that week 1 game. I think the Eagles minus 4.5 if you're leaning in either direction. I don't love how the Packers close the season, and it's hard to play in Philly. Love is he a little banged up. I like the Eagles to win and cover, and I do think the NFC ultimately will come down to them and Detroit. Probably the most fun game of the Saturday, Sunday. Commanders, Bucks, interesting one. Baker has had an exceptional season. Daniels has been a blast to watch. The Bucks got some meaningful playoff experience the last couple of years. I guess Todd Bowles, consistent playoff coach, 3 years in a row now, which is funny. Dan Quinn, been to a Super Bowl. He's back in the playoffs. This game, full coin flip. And, I don't like picking all favorites, so I'm going to lean towards throwing a little something on Washington money line and see if that's the one that breaks through. For the Monday game, now it looks like it's going to be played in Arizona because of the horrible situation out in California. Thoughts and prayers to everyone out there who is dealing with just a nightmare of a situation. I really think the Rams could be feisty in this game, man. Especially if it's close and Darnold gets a little tight and he's off target like he was in that Detroit game. O'Connell's a great coach. McVay's a good coach. And that Rams defense can be scrappy. And I'm not going to touch this one, but another one I'm looking at, the underdog. Rams are plus 2.5. And I would not be shocked if that was an upset win. And what does that mean for Darnold's future and J.J. McCarthy's future? We'll see. So that is the Sunday AM Coffee. It is back. Remember to hit the magic mind in the bio. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.